Well, hi there. This is Don McKeag back again after too long a delay. I'm sorry for the replays. I'm not sorry for the show, but it's a busy summer. And that being said, welcome to the Don McKeag Show. Those that are watching it the first time, I want to remind you that we don't have a call in here, but I have been on Cape Cod radio for over 20 years, from 11 till 1 on 95.1 FM WXTK on Cape Cod. The studio is located in Hyannis. That being said, I am here to just kind of do reviews and hopefully be somewhat of an educator or an informer. I was a school teacher for 12 years. I coached football and baseball. I have owned restaurants on Cape Cod, the Flying Bridge for one in Falmouth, and the Asa Burris House in Hyannis, the Backside Saloon. I've been a piano player and done all sorts of things. I've written a book called, well, at least I owned a Rolls Royce that has been going well. You may buy it in Titcomb's in Sandwich or Market Street Books in Mashpee and Books by the Sea in Centerville. Anyway, I mention these things because at my age, I'm in my 70s, and I am so discouraged so many times, not for myself, not for my generation. We don't have that many years to go, but for the younger generations. We are in, I believe, an erosion of the greatness that this country once had and still does. We still have the greatest country, the greatest people. I don't care whether Republican, Democrat, Independent. I don't care what religion they are. I don't care what color they are. If you look at a majority, a huge majority of the people, over 300 million in the United States of America, we are the greatest. What we have is a runaway group of jackals called the media, who are strictly motivated by trouble, strictly motivated by what's wrong, and strictly motivated by money, which is ratings, because ratings are what corporate America and their advertisers pay for. They do not care about the future. They don't. They don't know this, but they do not care what they are doing. They are undermining a president. Let's get one thing clear. We don't have to like the president. We don't have to, we can dislike him terribly. The president. Male, female, black, white, it is the office and the history of this country that we have to respect and honor. What's happening right now is we have, just now they're firing another missile in North Korea. We have a press and we have people, and I hope I'm speaking to some that might give extra thought to this, especially when their grandchildren or children come home from college and start spewing off about the president or about anything like that. That is, you give confidence and you give a message to our enemies, not just North Korea, China, others. The world is a precarious place, and we, the United States of America, have held it together for a long, long time. Without us, World War I would have been lost. World War II would have been lost. Korea would have been lost. It was a stalemate. Vietnam was a bad effort, but it still was our leadership we can be blamed, a lot of blame to go around, but the point is, whenever there's earthquakes, whenever there's tsunamis, as there were in Japan and other countries, the first country to come to the aid of the countries that have been devastated, Haiti, is the United States of America. No other country comes close. But instead of focusing on those wonderful things, we have a press that is absolutely biased. They are biased to liberal Democrats. I was a John F. Kennedy Democrat and proud of it, a devoted follower. I would be again if the Democratic Party had people like John Kennedy and others that I admired that were running the Democratic Party then. They don't. There's great people that are Democrats, but I'll tell you, not the leadership. And the Republicans, of course, are no better, unfortunately. They are a lousy alternative, and that's what we're all stuck with. But one of the things I hope to do in the show is to just have us thinking about, before I get too discouraged, I have to remember too that we're man. You know, man is flawed. We're all capable of one or all of the 7 deadly sins: greed, lust, sloth. All of these things that we are told we have to warn and be prepared ourselves to handle when they come along, those feelings, try to control them. We go back to quotations that I keep of Cicero, a Roman author and politician, orator, who lived from 106 BC to 43 BC, who said, "Not to know what has been transacted in former times is to be always a child. If no use is made of the labors of past ages, the world must remain always in the infancy of knowledge." You've seen what's happened to colleges. I went to the University of Massachusetts. The leadership up there has taken over education and made it strictly political. Doesn't mean there isn't some good education. It doesn't mean there aren't some good schools within the school. But it's the leadership. We've got it even now in high schools. We certainly have it in schools of journalism. They are biased and they're not supposed to be. They are telling our young people sides of issues and eliminating the other side. We have a legal system that's running amok. They're just part of the program. And when we know what President Trump is talking about when he says the swamp in Washington, all of us that are honest in our appraisals and been around long enough to know it's absolutely the correct definition. They are bought and paid for. I don't care how nice they appear, they are bought and paid for. This latest issue of transgender in the military points beautifully to the insanity of news coverage and the insanity of priority. We have less than 3% of 6% of the population involved in this. We have the liberal establishment that has decimated the military by demanding equal treatment for men and women. I have no problem with equal treatment. I have problem with being contrary to what nature tells us. And it's never reported because the bias of liberalism will not report failed programs. They have had thousands of incidents in the Navy especially of mixed men and women aboard ship, women getting pregnant. They've had to have separate areas for the service women to have the children. Well, why don't we have the opportunity for women equal, but have it not be a mixture where nature now comes in? The military and other issues are not social programs for testing. The military has one purpose: to defend us, to have consistency in the ranks, to have discipline in the ranks. We are more worried about transgenders. There's more coverage than about the defeat of health care issues in Obamacare. Now let's look at this. Even if you're a Democrat, even if you're pro-Obama, which I wasn't, had nothing to do with his race, had to do with his incompetence, I felt, and lack of experience. Over 50% of the people did not want that. I'm talking Democrats and Republicans. We also have Congress excluding themselves from health care. There are, again, the media supports leftist programs. The Democrats have become socialists, the leadership. You people that are Democrats, we're not talking about you individually. We have more news and more outrage, especially in our young people who've now been brainwashed into this feel-good liberal mentality where there's never no. You never say, no, we're not going to do that. I'm sorry, we will try to care for you in other ways, but we are not going to create a weakness in our military or anything else by catering to a situation that could be damaging. This comes again from the last generations of women that read Dr. Spock and all of this nonsense where they don't know how to bring up their own kids. They need someone else to tell them. And what they told them was, first of all, don't believe the Bible. Don't believe what's time-worn for over 2,000 years, such as spare the rod and spoil the child. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. How do you get a basically welfare society? We have more people capable of working who won't. Not that they can't find jobs, they will not. And why? Because they are given financial support, they're given health care without working. All coming from one philosophy and one party. Again, remember, this is not a non-political. I grew up, I believed in John Kennedy. I believed in the Peace Corps. One of the greatest things to me in the last century was the creation of the Peace Corps. We had young people and middle-aged people signing up. They weren't paid much. And they went off into foreign countries to help people. On top of that, they learned how fortunate they were to be Americans. We need more of that. That's what the military also indirectly can give those people who serve their country. An appreciation in foreign locations. And I don't mean all poverty locations. I mean go to France, and you'll see a difference. You'll see that socialist countries do not have the standard of living that we have. Our capitalistic society is flawed. There's no question. But that's because you have human beings. Not because the system is necessarily wrong. Our government is not functioning well anymore, not because it wasn't founded on strength and principle, but because the individuals now, over the course of time, have learned how to manipulate, have learned how powerful and how now profitable being in Congress is, and they don't want to get out. We can't change it because they make their own rules. It's become apparent to me, term limits for everyone should be in hand. And this nonsense of allowing former congressmen, former senators to end up being lobbyists, paid huge money to go and have a few drinks with somebody that they used to serve with in Congress, and then get government and get that individual or individuals to support the company they now represent. There is no such thing as conflict of interest that hurts all of us. And what I'm saying is getting back to, here's this health care bill gone down to defeat by Republican-controlled Congress, who promised in their re-election bid twice, 2 midterms, that they would repeal it. And they think they're going to get away with it, and because the Democrats offer no alternative, and the public, and I'm talking about Democrat friends, they know it was the Democrats that jammed this program down our teeth. And there are millions of people today in this particular program who do not have health care or who have suffered greatly. Millions. And what's the media do? Because the media, all they want to do is demean the president and demean the Republicans. They don't want to talk about what's wrong with the health bill. They're glad that it went down to defeat. They're not dealing with why people are so upset with it. Older people that have paid their taxes, educated their kids, served their country. They get sick, and what happens? They find out they don't have this covered. All over the country, premiums have tripled. The media cover that? Nope. But let one illegal immigrant get arrested, and it's big news. But American citizens that are suffering needlessly because of politicians, and they were able to vote themselves, as I said, they voted themselves a separate health care plan. We should be able to march on Washington and demand every single one of those people that they have to have the same health care as everyone else in this country. But it won't happen. And you know why? The press won't ask for it. They won't demand it. But they'll demand and fire away and make people look bad over transgender rights. This is where we've come. And our young people have just been sucked into it. Never before, I believe, has a person in history ever, never mind a president of the United States, never has anyone been subjected to the kind of barrage of criticism, insults, disrespect, no protocol, no fairness. I don't care, once again. This is not about liking the man. It's the office, and it's what he represents, and that the person elected deserves to have a chance to do what he was elected by the people. Not by your people, the ones that didn't like him, but by the people. And that's what we are jeopardizing everything for. I don't agree with a lot that's going on, but I'll tell you right now, I didn't agree with Obama. I didn't agree with Jimmy Carter. I was I lived in Hyannisport. I was a Kennedy member. a family member, a friend of the family's. But I voted for Ronald Reagan. He made sense. Jack Kennedy was, why I liked, he was a conservative financially. But liberal socially, which is what I am. And when you call attention to what's happening, and when I just make a statement to be labeled that you don't care about people, when you have these politicians spending your money, working women especially, I talk about this on the radio all the time, working women tend to vote for Democrats. And the Democrats have been messing them up for years, overtaxing them, schools. 12 years as an educator. They're a problem now because they've become political. When my generation and a couple after it went to school, you had the president's picture in every classroom and a flag. Didn't matter who voted for who. That's the way it was. It was respect and it was a reality. To have people standing in front of our young people saying and doing the things that they say about the leaders of our country. Again, I don't care who they are, what they are. I would never, I could dislike someone totally, and I would never disrespect their position nor their right to try to do the things they believed in. Another thing that Cicero said, remember, I love this because it's so true and it helps me stay somewhat positive. It's hard to stay positive when I see, not for me, but for young people. We have wonderful young people. I mentioned the last one. This is a great building over here in Carver, and they look forward to have people stop in. And they have young people here running this, and it's the group of people today that it bothers me a little because they don't seem to be getting the education of all of us, that we're all people that feel the same as people did thousands of years ago. And Cicero once said, "The evil implanted in man by nature spreads so imperceptibly when the habit of wrongdoing is unchecked, that he himself can set no limit to his shamelessness." And this is what I believe we have in politics, we have it in the media, and it is so dangerous. You know, remember that old power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So we have this situation now with public employees that I've talked about before. And I was talking about how expensive and how out of control socialism becomes. Socialism, remember, has never, ever worked historically. It's always created a faltering economy. Germany used to be a huge, successful economy. And they've been struggling ever since they went socialist. And this was after going through what Hitler had done to them. Well, when you start paying, in 20 years ago, when I was living in Palm Beach in the winters, I was reading the Palm Beach Post, and it was talking about, getting back to the politicians, an incumbent, or I should say a challenger, to the Senate or to a congressman, a sitting congressman, has less than 10% chance of defeating the incumbent. And one of the biggest reasons is because, I don't know if you know this, but I know this firsthand, when someone gets in Congress, they have people working for them in their office. And this is both parties, remember. This is not a political side. This is what's wrong, though, in the system, how it's evolved. They'll have people whose only job is to get their candidate reelected, to get that senator reelected, to get that congressman or woman reelected. Now, is that right? The taxpayer, you and I are paying. We're paying for their mailings. We're paying for staff that does nothing to benefit us as people that are taxpayers, but they are used strictly to get that candidate reelected. And then the media, of course, is always going to support one side. Well, what I just was talking about, and I'm a big supporter of police and a big supporter of education, and I'm a big supporter of public, employees being treated right. But these are the kinds of things that just, again, don't seem to ever be addressed and straightened out. This was in today's Herald by Max Stout. A handful of now this is, again, public employees. See, I own businesses, big ones. I had 60 employees in one of my restaurants. I looked at the income every day, every week. I looked at the bills. My secretary went over them. This is what a private sector person usually does. Now, I'm not saying when you get into huge corporate America that it continues, but there should be oversight in schools, there should be oversight in the fire departments, and there should be oversight in the police department, especially now when the salaries in many cases are double what a job such as it's similar in the private sector pays half as much and has way less benefits. Handful of hub police officers managed to get paid for 24 or more hours in a single day, 16 times in 1 year, thanks to a patchwork of details, overtime, and in some cases, hours they didn't actually work. Remember what I just read about Cicero? How imperceptibly, again, when there's no oversight, when there's no punishment, hopefully there'll be punishment. The evil implanted in man by nature. Remember, makes no by man, that's man and women, by the human being, spread so imperceptibly when the habit of wrongdoing is unchecked, that there is no limit to his or her shamelessness. And we pay people to oversee the police departments. That's what these high salaries of police chiefs and senators and congressmen and state reps, that's what their job is. They're there to represent the taxpayer as well, and that's been forgotten. The mind-boggling payoff, including one case in which an officer was paid for 31 hours in one day. How do you not have any shame in taking that, huh? You know what's happened in today's America that's really unfortunate, and it's in the public sector far much more than the private sector. 4 words that I can't stand. Oh, they all do it. That's 5 words if you use oh. They all do it, or everyone does it. That's a sad testament. Anyway. But officers aren't limited to the hours for which they're ultimately paid, which can balloon under the department's collectively bargained contracts. Now your unions are involved. For example, officers are paid a minimum amount of hours for a detail or to appear in court, even if they work a small fraction of the time. You hear that? For example, officers are paid a minimum amount of hours for a detail or to appear in court, even if they work a small fraction of the time. I had to go to court 3 different times in business for I had a couple of apartment houses, non-payment of rent. I had to sit there 3 or 4 hours, miss meetings, whatever. Nobody compensated me. They can also stack details and overtime shifts on days they are already on paid vacation, further padding on a single day's pay. It's a system gone haywire when people can get paid for more than 24 hours in a single day, said Mary Connaughton, the Director of Government Transparency at the Pioneer Institute. Mary Connaughton, I had on my radio show, Connaughton. She's a wonderful lady. She was put up by Mitt Romney she ran for treasurer, but of course she's a Republican. She couldn't possibly get elected, but she didn't quit. She's a director of Pioneer Institute, which is overseeing the kinds of things that you and I are all being cheated by our public employees and by a system supported by, I might add, in Massachusetts, the Democratic Party exclusively. The teachers' unions, when I was a Democrat, I never liked that. Teachers' unions. Teachers stand in front of kids whose parents are Republicans as well as Democrats. They are independent. Schools should not be promoting political parties, period. Another thing I learned, when I was in teaching, when a teacher signs a contract, they are forbidden to go on strike. Yet, it hasn't happened for quite a while. They haven't had to. Some towns went on strike. While I was teaching, I think one was gosh, I got to remember, it was the woolen mill. But anyway, the reason people who are not listening to me because they don't want to hear what I'm saying, but I'm just saying feel-gooders, I call them feel-gooders. And if I have an edge on it, it's because I mean it. It's about the kids. Well, it isn't about the kids. It's about why is it forbidden for teachers to go on strike? Especially now. It wasn't so bad when I was growing up, when mothers were home with their kids. Now, so many mothers are working. I mean, young mothers. A lot of mothers go to work after the kids have gone to high school or whatever, and it's a whole different ballgame because they want it when they should. I'm not against the women working, don't get me wrong. But if teachers go on strike, now you've got working mothers whose kids are now, they've got to be taken care of somehow. Somebody's got to meet them. Somebody's got to be home. I'm talking about small kids now. It's immoral. How's that? To do it over money. Never mind the fact it was against the law. Ronald Reagan's the only politician up until now that's had the courage to take on any kind of union when he took on the flight attendants. They're the ones that were in charge of airplanes coming and going. I forget what they're called. I forget. Getting old. Anyway, and he got them fired, which they should be. And all those teachers that went on strike should have been fired. And when people break a law that affects the community, they should be fired. We should be able to fire senators and congressmen that don't do what they said they were going to do. Getting back to this Herald article, which will disappear, by the way. Again, why Democrats aren't going to get outraged over this? Because they don't want to lose the support of the police union. That's how this political system works now. Just remember what every single one of those politicians wants and why we have so many things going on against Trump or against anybody else, as they would. And that is because the senators and the congressmen want their faces on television. It's all about getting media coverage that goes back to their home state, and they perceive that as giving them notoriety, further notoriety, and more chances of getting reelected. And it works. That's the sad thing. It works. Anyway, this review found that 9 times an officer was paid for more than 24 hours in one day. That included the 31-hour payday for an officer who, while on vacation, worked more than 15 hours of overtime. He's on vacation and he's getting paid for 15 hours of overtime. Another 6 on a detail and was paid 2 additional hours of a detail that he didn't work. No shame. There's no shame out there, ladies and gentlemen. Will he get fired? Probably go to this union rep. They'll fight for, oh, he's a wonderful guy. He's got 5 kids. Yeah? Fire him. 7 times an officer worked exactly 24 hours in 10 days. 16 instances where officers worked 23 plus. Now listen to this. Here's the Boston police spokesman. I'm an Irishman, another Irishman that's right in that. Michael McCarthy says, the rules allowing for the massive single-day payouts are all pursuant to a collective bargaining agreement. Now, what is that? Getting paid for more hours than there are in the day is now justified by a collective bargain? He also noted that details are paid by private contractors, not the city. Oh, that makes it okay. So when you cheat the private contractor by putting in for time that you didn't work, it's okay. Nice, nice. There are negotiations that are long and thorough between the city of Boston and the respective unions. Yeah, that's right. And who represents Boston? Democrats. Who represents Massachusetts? Democrats. How did Democrats get reelected? Unions. Is it good? Is it bad? You be the judge. Here's an example of what goes on. Efforts to reach officials at the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association or the Boston Police Detectives Benevolent Society were not successful yesterday. Sam Tyler, president of the Boston Municipal Research Bureau, said the massive payouts raise questions not just about how the extra work is being managed, but also the toll it can take on officers. The toll. We're all paying for it, ladies and gentlemen, and we're paying for systems that are criminal. And when you have people that are enforcing the law, and I would say 95% of police officers don't fall into this category, but you know, the leadership and how discipline is handled affects everyone. We went through the affirmative action mess for 10 or 20 years ago where people taking tests that were high, they got high grades, were stepped over for those less because they were part of a movement. We have so many things that for young people to see, non-punishment is very scary to me. And now I want to lighten up a little. How much time have we got anyway?
10 minutes.
Oh boy, all right. Well, this is what we've got voting out there, ladies and gentlemen, which is perhaps why we're having having the situation out there. These people vote. Hopefully, maybe some of them don't, but this is actual complaints that were received. All these people, some of you that go out on vacations coming up in the winter, or even now you go on cruises. This was complaints by the Thomas Cook Vacations Company. These are people that write to the company after their experience on the trip. 1, on my holiday to Goa in India, I was disgusted to find that almost every restaurant served curry. I don't like spicy food. I hope you get this. In India, curry is their major spice. So evidently these people thought they were supposed to have a McDonald's all the time. 2, they should not allow topless sunbathing on the beach. It was very distracting for my husband who just wanted to relax. I tell you, we went on holidays to Spain and had a problem with the taxi drivers as they were all Spanish, and that's all they spoke. 4, we booked an excursion to a water park, but no one told us we had to bring our own swimsuits and towels. We assumed it would be included in the price. Here's one. The beach was too sandy. We had to clean everything when we returned to our room. 6, we found the sand was not like the sand in the brochure. Your brochure shows the sand as white, but it was more yellow. 7, it's lazy of the local shopkeepers in Puerto Vallarta to close in the afternoons. Now, the Spanish community for time immemorial has been known to take what they call siestas, and that is they take naps in the afternoon. But evidently this woman thought, oh man, thought it was just because they were lazy. I often needed, I could not buy something, and I don't like siesta time. This should be banned. They want us to ban, okay. Now, no one told us there would be fish in the water. The children were scared. 9, although the brochure said there was a fully equipped kitchen, there was no egg slicer in the drawers. 10, I think it should be explained in the brochure that the local convenience store does not sell proper biscuits like custard creams or ginger nuts. These are people writing to the travel agency. The roads were uneven and bumpy, so we could not read the local guidebook during the bus ride to the resort. Because of this, we were unaware of many things that would have made our holiday more fun. It took us 9 hours to fly home from Jamaica to England. It took the Americans only 3 hours to get home. This seems unfair. I compared the size of our 1-bedroom suite to our friend's 3-bedroom, and ours was significantly smaller. Think about it. What does she think? A 1-bedroom suite is going to be the same size as a 3-bedroom? The brochure stated no hairdressers at the resort. We're trainee hairdressers, and we think they knew and made us wait longer for service. My fiance and I requested 10 twin beds when we booked, but instead we were placed in a room with a king bed. We now hold you responsible and want to be reimbursed for the fact that I became pregnant. This would not have happened if you had put us in the room that we booked. Now there's a beauty. My fiance and I requested twin beds, and when she... Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, these are the kinds of things, and these are the people out there that, unfortunately, I think... Here's a beauty. I live in a semi-rural area. We recently had a new neighbor call the local township administrative office to request the removal of the deer crossing sign on our road. The reason was, quote, too many deer are being hit by cars out here. I don't think this is a good place for them to be crossing anymore. They walk among us, they reproduce, and they vote. And a few more of them now hold public office. Well, I guess, aren't we near the end, Ivana? Pretty near?
Yep, we got 5 more minutes.
We got 5 more minutes, okay. Well, anyway, I hope some of this is thought-provoking, if nothing else. I don't expect to change people's minds, but I do hope as I do on the radio. Remember, tomorrow, if you like what you hear, every Saturday, you can get it here in Carver or Plimpton. This show is also shown in Plymouth from 11 to 1, and you can call in and tell me if you agree or disagree, and that's fine, but at least you can express your opinion. But I do hope, it's the educator in me, I guess, I just want people to open their minds and think, and there are too many now, I believe, that have things too easy, too good, and making an awful lot of money, and we're being pushed away from religion, which bothers me, and I've never been a big church man, but I do believe in the Ten Commandments, I do believe in the Golden Rule, and I do believe that a core base of the success of this wonderful country came and still comes from church-going people who believe that there is something more than us. We choose to call it God, many of us, but you don't have to. But to look at the beauty that we see, I'll go home today and from this station, and I'll sit outside overlooking a pond, and it's beautiful. The sun sets every night, and hopefully it's still sunny out. And I have a pair of swans on the pond and a whole little family of ducks that come up, and I feed them. And it's a beautiful place. It's not a wealthy place. It doesn't have to be. And I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for the wonderful opportunities I've had. I've had my ups and downs, like most, but I love this country and I love the people in it. And I hate to see the division, and I hate to see the constant anger and the constant media trying to look for problems rather than try to pull us together. One other humorous thing, I think I got a couple of minutes anyway. This is what happens in church now with the, I laugh at it because of my generation. This is so different than when we went to church, but now the pastor says, "Praise the Lord," and the congregation says, "Hallelujah." The pastor now says, "Will everyone please turn on their tablet, PC, iPad, smartphone, and Kindle Bibles to 1 Corinthians 13:13, and please switch on your Bluetooth to download the sermon." Now there's a pause. "Now let us pray, committing this week into God's hands. Open your apps, Twitter and Facebook, and chat with God." Now there's silence. "As we take our Sunday tithes and offerings, please have your credit and debit cards ready. We can log on to the church Wi-Fi using the password LORD909887. The ushers will circulate mobile card swipe machines among the worshipers. A, those who prefer to make electronic fund transfers are directed to computers and laptops at the rear of the church. B, those who prefer to use iPads can open them. C, those who prefer telephone banking, take out your cell phones to transfer your contributions to the church account. The holy atmosphere of the church becomes truly electrified as all the smartphones, iPads, PCs, and laptops beep and flicker. Final blessing and closing announcements. A, this week's ministry cell meetings will be held on the various Facebook group pages where the usual group chatting takes place. Please log in and don't miss out. B, Thursday's Bible study will be held live on Skype at 1900 hours GMT. Please don't miss out. C, you can follow your pastor on Twitter this weekend for counseling and prayers. God bless and have a nice day. Is that happening in your church? Huh? Do you go to church over there in Nevada? Yeah. Did you think that was humorous or no? That's what we've got today. Everything is Twitter and Tweeter and everything else. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Don McKeag. I live in Carver, Massachusetts. I'm from Weymouth, Massachusetts. And thanks for watching, and God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful rest of the summer. Good night.